Well,
All
I got to go
right. Good
and sit.
morning. Good morning, everyone. We are back with Steve Leeper today. Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me here as number 71.
71. Yes, amazing. Of course, the focus of the series is on sustainability, and there is no future, there is no sustainable future without thinking about peace issues and stopping nuclear weapons. So I think your insights is so important for the series. Thank you so much.
I am so glad that you are thinking along those lines. A lot of people don't.
Right. Would you start by just introducing yourself a little bit?
Ooh, let's see. Well, I have spent about half my life in Japan, and I first came here when I was one. And then when I was six, almost seven, my father died here in a shipwreck that happened between Honshu and Hokkaido. And then we all went back to America. That was when I was seven, we went back. And then at 17, I came back to Japan and met my wife. And then at 27, I came back to Japan and started a company. Uh, and then, no, 27, that was when I conceived my son, first son. And then at 37, I came back and started a company. And that is when I noticed this 10-year pattern. Every 10 years, something happens. And so I was really looking forward to being 47. And nothing at all happened that I am aware of. I really do. I felt like, okay, that's the end of that. And then at 57, I started a new form of meditation. And then at 67, I came out and moved into the Peace Culture Village here. So I am a person who does things every 10 years.
Wow, that's an interesting cycle. Every 10 years. I'm gonna have to re-look, take a new look at my life every 10 years and think what did I do of significance? I like that perspective.
You may be on an entirely different cycle.
Maybe. Actually, for me, it might be every 5 years because I had kids 5 years apart. So I have to look at that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's big. That's big.
Let's talk about PCV a little bit because that's your big thing at the moment, right? Can you introduce Peace Culture Village to us?
Well, when I was, let's say, when when it was 2002, it was when I got seriously involved with the city of Hiroshima. I began working for Mayors for Peace. I was their New York representative for a few years, and I was working on developing Mayors for Peace, and that led to me becoming the chairman of the Peace Culture Foundation, which is the peace and international relations arm of Hiroshima, and Mayors for Peace is the campaigning arm. And when I was hired there, Mayor Akiba, who was mayor at the time, said, "You don't have to worry about the museum. Don't worry about the International Conference Center or any of the other stuff that we're doing. You just work on Mayors for Peace." So that's what I did. I focused on Mayors for Peace, trying to build it up. But as I was doing that, I was going around talking about peace all the time. And because, as a non Japanese person in my position, everybody wanted to hear what I had to say. So I go around talking about peace. And whenever I talk to junior high, high school, or college groups, they say, "What is peace?" And then they also ask, "What is peace culture?" because of the Peace Culture Foundation. So I had to start thinking about the answers to those questions. And that helped me understand that peace culture is a concept that I believe this concept comes from Hiroshima, comes from Moritake Ichiro. And I also believe that it is a very vague, abstract term that no one has really defined, or no one, Hiroshima is really great at saying that the atomic bombing was horrible and nuclear weapons are horrible and should be abolished. War is horrible and peace is much better. But as far as I can see, there's very little effort in saying exactly how should society change. How do we change in our minds and hearts and in our social and political and economic systems if we're going to avoid war and promote peace or maintain peace? There are certain changes that need to happen, and that is what we all refer to as peace culture, but we don't define that. We don't know what that is. So even as the chairman of the Peace Culture Foundation, I began trying to work on creating a peace culture village. I wanted a model of what is peace culture. And the main thing about it is that you have to be wondering what is peace culture and trying to figure it out. That is what it's all about, really. And so I was trying to do that, and I failed to do it as within the system. I couldn't make it happen in the system. And then after getting out of the system, I was going to do it at Jogakuin University, but that did not work out. And then I found this place out here in Konu, and I have been working on it here since 2015. And this is basically a peace training camp. It's a place where we are trying to find inner peace and peace with each other and peace with nature. Those are the sort of three areas of peace studies that we do here.
So you do lectures. I'm showing the PCV website right now. It looks like you do lectures and webinars, Peace Portal, which we'll talk about later. Very exciting crowdfunding happening from this week, and Peace Dialogue. So doing the peace tours in Hiroshima Peace Park, we talked to Mary, and she introduced that. Mary's on your team for PCV, of course. But you also, as part of the crowdfunding, you're offering webinars and face-to-face, like personal interaction as well, which we'll talk about that later. So a lot of interactive kind of coaching about peace. How do you do that? Can you introduce that a little bit? What's your tactic for encouraging people to live more peaceful lives?
Well, the original thing that we were doing was we would have people come and live here, and living together, everyone who comes here has some kind of problem that they're working on, right? And they bring some problem to the group, and the group has to try and work on that problem. And then when we are working on that problem, conflicts come up, and then we have to try and resolve those conflicts. And resolving conflicts is what peace culture is all about. We are not fighting, and we are not just kicking people out and hating them, or we have to figure out how we're going to live together. So the idea was, okay, we get all these people to come and live together here, and we work on how do we resolve conflict? How do we decide what kind of food to have for breakfast? Should we have Western breakfast or Japanese breakfast? Those kind of decisions need to be made. And so we're doing that. And actually this year, we were doing mostly tours and camps, and we were completely full from March 27 until the middle of June. Everything was full, and it was all canceled because of the virus. So then, I, as an old person and someone who gives up easily, I was all set to just go home and never come back to this godforsaken country. But the young people around me said, no, 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 we have to do this. We have to figure out how to go online. And so now we are really focusing on online tours, online webinars, and getting people together with Zoom or Skype or other ways of meeting face to face. And this turns out to be what I've been waiting all my life for. I think that I actually do think that regardless of the virus, this is the way we need to do it. It's a low CO2 method. It's a low cost method. And we can actually provide a very powerful Hiroshima experience by bringing people into our world online. And in some ways, it's even more powerful because we can show them all these A-bomb drawings and the videos of what Hiroshima was like before the bombing and things that people don't see if they just come and walk around Peace Park.
Yeah. Let's talk about Konu, where you are right now, a little bit. So you are house is a remodeled old house. I'm showing the picture right now,
Uh,
um, and you also did farming and other like collaborative work with local farmers and stuff. Tell me about the countryside location just for a minute.
well, we are out here on, we're 2 hours by bus on the Peace Liner, by the way.
Okay.
You take the Peace Liner for 2 hours and you get here to Konu Station. And then we will drive down the 4 kilometers to pick you up. And then we have a whole valley here that we can work with. Unfortunately, we don't have enough people living here all the time to take advantage of all the land that we already control. And we could get a lot more land because we are living in a dying community. This is a genkai shuraku in Japanese, meaning that it's a dying community, and there are fewer people here every year, and 40% of the houses in the area are empty. And more every year, there are fields that should be growing something, rice or some other kind of something. This should be happening, but it's not. It's turning into big weeds and homes for wild boar. So we are what we are trying to do here is develop a sustainable way of farming. And this is a really important aspect of what we're doing because the way we are feeding ourselves now is completely unsustainable. We are destroying the soil and the water and everything. We are not 8 billion people cannot live this way and have the planet remain habitable. We have to change how we do agriculture. So we are working on, there's a Shizen Noho, or natural farming by Masanobu Fukuoka, that we're studying. We are also studying permaculture by Bill Mollison of Australia. And we're also studying a new thing called Kyosei Noho, which is developed in Japan. The English word is cynical culture, but I had never heard it before. I don't know. I've never met anyone who has heard of it. But it is natural agriculture taken out even further, where the first step is that in fact, just the other day, we were walking around out here trying to see what is already growing here that we can eat, that we can find some way to use. So
That's great.
we don't,
Yeah, we've had some great organic farmers in the series. Chuck Kaiser, who says he never intended to be a farmer. Very similar to you. He went out to live in the countryside because he loves nature. And then he's like, there's a need here for farming, and there's a need in Japan to grow our own food. So definitely what you're doing out in the countryside is great for the community because the population is declining, especially bad in the rural areas. And then bringing that together with community development, peace studies, it seems like a perfect location.
well, there's another thing that makes it a perfect location, and that is that the Jimmy Carter Civic Center is here. And in
Really?
all of the world, there are only two facilities with the name Jimmy Carter in it. And one is in Konu and
Wow.
one is in Atlanta, Georgia. I live in both of these places about half of the year.
Did you
So
help get it started?
the Jimmy Carter, no, no, no. This has been going on. This was built in 1994, and it happened because the Japanese Chamber of Commerce in Atlanta donated a bell to Jimmy Carter when he built the Carter Center in Atlanta. But he is a very devout Christian, and in the Bible it says you can't keep spoils of war. And this bell was a spoil of war taken from Japan right after the war. And so he said, okay, I'm going to return this bell. And he investigated it, or had his staff investigate it, and found out that it came from Shoganji right here in Konocho.
Wow.
So he and Amy came here in 1990 and to return the bell. Well, that at that time Konocho was independent. Now has been merged with Miyoshi City, but at the time it was an independent cho of 3,000 people, and they went totally insane because this wonderful ex-president of the United States suddenly shows up to return a bell. So now the main street in this town is called Jimmy Carter Dori,
Oh,
and
wow.
we have Carter Hills, we have Carter Kyujo, we have the Jimmy Carter Civic Center, and we grow Carter peanuts.
That's
It,
awesome. I
yeah,
didn't know all of this. I really, for ages, I've wanted to come out and take video and introduce what you guys are doing out there. Maybe if you're living out there, I want to come do that. So let's
well, I'm here
definitely,
until September 25th.
yeah,
So please come on out
okay,
sometime after August 15th.
okay.
We'll be here.
That sounds awesome. Let's shift a little bit. Let's talk about your exciting crowdfunding initiative happening soon. Can you tell us about it?
Well, you mentioned already the Peace Portal.
Yes.
And the Peace Portal, we developed, we've already sort of partially developed it, and we have a good application that we developed with a group called Time Looper. And they are the ones who did the technical work, and we gave them the content. But this application, you can just download it, and then you can tour Peace Park. It's an augmented reality tour of Peace Park that you can do by yourself without anybody around. You know, I don't have to be there. Mary doesn't have to be there. And you just do it. Then we developed online guided tours where Mary and I, usually two of us, give this tour. And we use Google Earth for that and drop in at various monuments and talk about them and show photographs and that kind of thing. And then we are also talking about doing well, the webinars, but also we really have our heart set on getting a lot of these webinars to feature the hibakusha, who will, and we can have an interactive dialogue through Skype or Zoom, and we can then record it so that some people are actually taking part in it at the time, and we can set those up. But in addition, we'll have recorded ones archived on our website so people can visit any time. But the main thing is that we need to have some funds to spend so that we can pay staff to actually make this much better. We realize now that we could take this to a whole new level. One is that we, rather than augmented reality, we can do virtual reality. This is hard to understand unless you're wearing the goggles. But if you have this little cardboard box that we can provide for you, you can see in 360 degrees. You know, you look this way and you see one part of Peace Park, and you look this way, you see another, and you can walk into the A-bomb dome. You can walk into the A-bomb dome before it was, before the bombing. And we have just tremendous potential in terms of technology, but we have to gather the content, we have to get the permissions, and then we have to pay to actually have the virtual reality created. So there's a lot of work there, and some expense. Oh, we even have to buy a 3D camera. So
well, I saw the potential of this when I did the sample tour with Mary in Peace Park, because you guys are collaborating with Time Looper, you're collaborating with other companies that are offering images of the past in new ways. So I saw images of a family at a tea house right opposite from what is now A-bomb Dome.
yeah,
And it's been colorized, and
yeah.
you can feel a sense of history so much stronger with this new technology. And so I found that really exciting. And of course, it takes funds to create this kind of virtual reality interface so that
Yeah.
you can do it. So give me some basic stats right now. So it's on Campfire, the crowdfunding,
Yeah.
and it's going to start this
Uh,
Thursday.
right. We are with the official launch of this thing is on August 6th, and we will be doing it until September 6th. And we're trying to raise 3 million yen for this. And we really need this 3 million yen because all of our income producing activities, the tours, the camps, my lectures, and we had some, I'm trying to promote a film also, and that all of the film showings are canceled. So, everything that we were doing to make money has been canceled. So we have to get some help from people. So that's why we're doing this crowdfunding thing.
Right. And let's talk about some of the, what is it called? Gifts or thank you for donating returns, I think it's called. So if you give 15,000 yen, you get one of Steve's new books, it says.
Right.
So tell me about your new book. What is it?
Well, I am writing a new book, and I feel it is kind of goofy to offer a book that I haven't even written yet. But
Well,
uh,
first,
it will be the book is basically written right now, but I need to get it translated into Japanese because I want it to be in both languages, and I also am working with um, two Japanese people who will do. One is a Buddhist priest who will write a sort of a Buddhist introduction to it, and one is a Japanese Christian who will write a Christian introduction to it. And the reason for that is because we're trying to tie in. I mean, one of the main purposes of this book is to try and integrate spiritual activities or the spiritual level of life with the political level of life. And I'm doing that partly just for my own sake because I have been living this very divided life since coming to Hiroshima, where I am actually studying a thing called Kam Nagaro no Michi, or the way of nature. And I have been doing meditation, and this means something to me, this whole spiritual thing. But on the other hand, my political world has no relationship. They don't have any relationship with each other, right? And so I am trying to integrate these in this book, and so I'm getting some help from my Japanese friends to um, partly to bring in other perspectives, and also partly to make it more accessible or interesting to Japanese readers.
can you give us a little tidbit from the book? Something that we could expect for readers?
Well, let's say,
Some of your philosophy. I mean, you've been working as a peace activist for so many years. Just give us a little guidance or insight in how you've learned to advise people to live more peaceful lives or to put peace to work or something.
well, I think that probably the main thing that I am trying to get across here is that our society is based on the pursuit of power. And this is something also Moritake Ichiro said, that within the company, you're trying to go up the ladder. And in a courtroom, it's very adversarial, and you have two lawyers battling it out to see who is going to win justice, right? And then in the political arena, you have political parties all pursuing the power to become the decision makers. And this pursuit of power itself leads us in a really destructive direction. Because if you consider everyone around you to be your enemy, you don't cooperate. And we see that so clearly in America right now. The Democrats and the Republicans would rather sacrifice the common good than lose to each other, right? So they'll do anything to win the next election, and as a result, things just get worse and worse. No problems get solved because no one wants to allow the other party to solve the problem. And I really do believe that we need to shift to the peace culture, as I say all the time, and that is a matter of resolving conflict, not fighting it out, but actually, rather than pursuing power, we have to pursue truth, for one thing. We have to see where we disagree and then really investigate and see who's right about this. There are objective realities that we can get in touch with if we try to do that. And then we have to pursue not just benefits to our own subgroup, like white Americans or even black Americans. We have to pursue solutions that make life better for everybody, including animals, plants, the earth, water, air, all of that has to be taken into account. And in order to get out of this pursuit of power paradigm, I think we need to elect and put into power a caste of people who are not pursuing power. And I'm calling them mediators. So, mediators are people who take a vow that they will not make more money than they get paid for their job. In other words, they should have a salary, they should live, uh, they should be able to live on this salary, but they should not be able to make any more money than that, no matter what happens, so that the result of any decision does not either help or hurt them. It doesn't harm them or help them in any way. They are not pursuing power. They are helping us make decisions, but they are put into power so that the the power of the government is behind their effort to bring all the stakeholders to the table, so that oil companies and environmental activists and peace activists and teachers and doctors, all these people come together and discuss, okay, what shall we do about COVID-19? Or what shall we do about healthcare? And then they do this massive conflict resolution process, which we now can do fairly easily because of technology. The national security state already knows what all of us thinks, right? There's no reason why we can't all be voting on things and why we can't all take part in making decisions. But we need mediators, professional. There is a body of knowledge about how to resolve conflict, how to help other people resolve conflict. That body of knowledge can be used to bring people together and force them, in a way, to pursue truth rather than their own benefit, and to pursue the common good rather than their own benefit. And then when we come up with some solution, that is a solution that 80%, 90% of the people will be supporting, and then it will be done. As opposed to now, where you get Obamacare, which sort of helped the health insurance problem a little bit, but it was resisted by many states. Many governors resisted it, and it doesn't get implemented. So right now, problems don't get solved. Even when someone comes up with a solution, it doesn't get implemented because half the people are against it. So anyway, the idea
It's
is,
so difficult when you're fighting against people who don't believe facts or who don't believe science
yeah,
or who don't study or use the scientific method. I mean, what you're describing with the mediators sounds like a really good solution, but isn't that what the Supreme Court is supposed to be? Impartial judges, right? And that hasn't worked. People do get compromised. It's a horrible reality.
yeah, it is. But the Supreme Court, though, is the top of an extremely adversarial process that has that has lawyers who are experts at debate. They are experts at getting what they want. They're not experts at helping everyone come up with a mediated solution for what to do. And then the people on the top are expected to make the decisions, right? So in the case of the Supreme Court, we have 9 people making decisions that 300 million people have to live with. And the 300 million people have nothing to say about it. They don't even have anything to say about who gets on that court, really. It gets appointed. So it's a very it's all part of the pursuit of power, and you can see that happening now. A lot of people voted for Trump just in order to have anti-abortion people on the court. A lot of Catholics voted for Trump for that particular reason. So it's all part of a system that does not come up with the best solutions. It comes up with the most powerful people in control, and that leads us in the wrong direction, because the people who are the most focused on getting what they want are usually selfish, narcissistic people who don't think about others. Those are the people who win in our system.
Yeah. Oh, and this, I mean, in terms of your expertise, this goes to the core of an argument a lot of people always give me about talking about peace. Oh, I just want to talk about peace with my students. I don't want to be political. They
Yeah.
often say,
Yes, yes.
how do you separate promoting peace from politics, from war, from government? Can you? Is it possible?
That is why in fact, that is exactly why I got onto this track, because so many young kids in Hiroshima say, I have a peace allergy, right? And I don't want to be seen as a peace activist. Peace, they say, peace wa, 平和は食えない. We can't eat peace. And all of that, to me, what it means is that no one has ever really talked to them about what peace is or why it's important. To them, peace is folding paper cranes and hearing depressing stories on August 6th and having to go to school on August 6th. It's not something that is relevant to how are you going to carve a place in the world, So peace is one other thing that what you said made me think, and that is that the survivors, the official survivors of Hiroshima's Peace Culture Foundation, are trained not to be political. So they talk about their experience. They talk about pain and suffering. They talk about love, family love, usually. They talk about ningen ai. So, all of us should love each other, and we should love the earth and the world, and we should all join hands and be peaceful. And at the end of their talk, I've been in literally hundreds of talks like this. And at the end of their talk, everyone, people have tears in their eyes, and everyone has these gentle looks on their faces. And then I get up and I start talking about, okay, so how do we do this? How do we make a world where we don't pursue power, and we are or we don't get wars? How can we avoid wars? And then what I say is inevitably perceived as political, and then I can see the people in front of me switch, and some are on my side and some are against me. Because as soon as you get political in any way, if you start talking about any change in society, you will encounter those who think that this is a good idea and those who think that it's not a good idea. Yeah. And that's why we have to have mediators who can help both of those groups get something out of it and come up with a solution that is acceptable, at least acceptable to all parties.
Yeah. I'm showing when we met at the climate strike last year. So this is something that people often say to me, I want to be an activist, I want to be sustainable, but I don't want to be political.
Uh-huh.
And I think you have to make a stand, because if you're saying I don't want to use oil, sorry, that's political. That's one of the reasons for most of the wars. And it's going to be water. It's going to be access to water. It's going to be immigration that is forcing the peace and climate debates. And
Yeah.
it's very political. So for me, try to do what you can. Try not to be angry all the time. Definitely have a sense of humor. And I respect that so much of you, Steve, because the discussions are so difficult. But you always seem to, have a sense of humor, try to do what you can. And, it's hard. But this is important. You have to keep a balance for your life as well, right?
Well, what is so frustrating to me is all of these people who are enthusiastically trying to prevent climate change don't seem to understand that the greatest obstacle to that is nuclear weapons. And the reason for that is nuclear weapons embody the cutthroat competition and animosity, the willingness to kill millions of people. This mindset keeps us from being able to cooperate enough to do anything. And so all we have at these COP meetings is the South complaining about the North, and the North complaining about the South, and America blaming it on China, and China blaming it on America. And everyone is willing for someone else to do something, and they are defending to their last breath their their right to keep on making a profit on this and that, and not have to change their lifestyle. And this is especially bad for the Americans. America, if everyone on Earth lived the way Americans lived, we would need 5.3 Earths. It's
It's
physically impossible.
just not possible.
Right. We cannot, we have to change the way we live. But we won't get there because we're competing so intensely for power and hegemony and resources and labor and markets that we can't get together and say, okay, what do we need to do to make this planet habitable? No one is sincerely talking about that. And I think it starts with getting rid of nuclear weapons, because nuclear weapons is the easiest problem we face. 9 countries could solve this problem in 2 weeks if they wanted to. They don't want to. And the fact that they don't want to shows that the animosity is trumping, no pun intended, but animosity is trumping cooperation. And until we can get over that, I don't see us coming up with any kind of effective effort or effective measures to take care of CO2, which is a vastly more difficult problem.
Yeah. Absolutely. Having weapons which did mass destruction like we saw in Hiroshima and Nagasaki to many women and children and innocent people, having that nuclear power capability is not necessary. And until we get over that hump that we don't need nuclear weapons and we need to work on climate change instead of trying to destroy each other, I agree 100%.
I am so glad to be talking to you, because it's not easy to get this across to people. I think you've been in Hiroshima a long time. It's in the air here,
Yeah.
but it is not in the air in a lot of places, in most places, I would say. It's really if people think of nuclear weapons as like totally irrelevant to their lives and nothing they can do anything about anyway, and what we really need to do is talk about climate change. And
I'm showing the ICANN images right now. We have in the Peace Museum, which I think you were part of the design process of the new rebuild for the museum. There is a thing about ICANN and getting the Nobel Peace Prize for ICANN. You also went to Norway years ago for one of the ICANN things,
yeah,
right?
yeah, one of the I think it was the first. Yeah, it was the first of the big international conferences that led to the TPNW. That was real exciting because the non-nuclear world began there to stand up to the nuclear weapon states. This is a rebellion. This is one thing that the media is not aware or does not play up. And even the diplomats don't really talk about this. But this is the non-nuclear world saying to the nuclear weapon states, hey, we've been waiting 50 years for you to fulfill your promise in the nuclear non-proliferation treaty that you're going to disarm. You're going to get rid of nuclear weapons. And you haven't done it. In fact, you have not spent 1 second negotiating altogether how to do this, which you are mandated to do in this treaty. So we are unilaterally declaring your weapons illegal, and we reject completely your ability to kill us all for any reason whatsoever. And that's what they're saying in the TPNW. But nobody, I mean, everybody is acting as if it didn't even happen, really. Most of the media people are acting like there is no such thing, and they don't play it up the way I think they should be playing it up. And the nuclear powers are doing their best to suppress it and keep people from signing, threatening. They're using threats and doing everything they can to keep it from becoming ratified and going into effect, and for it to be, become a part of international law.
Now, some of the things you're trying to do with the crowdfunding is kind of in the museum. They're doing more virtual reality, showing more images. Well, I think they've really done a beautiful job with the design of the museum in how you can take in individual stories. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, about the
Yeah.
museum design and the virtual project you're doing?
Well, I don't know if you know that Mary, because of ICANN and Peaceboat, Mary did a virtual tour of the museum, and a guided virtual tour of the museum, and that went really well. And that is something we want to do for the Peace Portal, to be able to take people on tours in the museum, or to have a virtual tour of the museum that people can take without anybody there. Just download the app. And I do think that the new museum, the best part of it is this place called the Cry of the Soul. And that is where we have the pictures of the people and their stories and something that they were wearing or carrying, or, a personal artifact of some sort. Because to me, being able to see that person and read the story at the same time is powerful. And I have seen people really get touched, moved, going through that area. It is really a powerful experience if you are at all open to what happened there.
Definitely.
And so I think that part is really good. And we want to be able to present that with virtual reality. So you can look here and you see this exhibit, and then you turn and you see this exhibit over here, because the museum is set up that way. It's got on all sides, and even in the middle there are things. So as you're going through there, you should be able to look around and see everything. And that's what I'm hoping the Peace Portal will be able to help us do.
Yeah, I found that the remodel with the personal stories and the big portrait style photographs of hibakusha survivors holding new babies, hibakusha survivors showing their scars, showing their testimony on the image, as well as what you can listen to in testimonies. I think people don't realize how difficult it is for them to retell their stories. How much stigma, even now, their grandchildren might get because they survived Hiroshima. That telling their story is really, they have to be brave,
Yeah, and I know, just let's say a couple 3 years ago, a woman took her father to the doctor because he was having some kind of symptoms, and it turned out that they found that the symptom had something to do with his blood. And the doctor said, well, are you a survivor? And her father said yes. And that's the first time she ever knew that he had been in Hiroshima at the time of the bombing. She
Wow.
never knew that he was a survivor. And he was only 1.3 kilometers away. So, I mean, it's a miracle that he even is still alive. And here he is, probably in his, I mean, I'm sure he was in his 80s, and he is dealing with a blood abnormality that, that is one of the accepted diseases or disorders that comes from radiation. So he's a survivor, and he's now kind of falling victim to something that happened to him 70 years ago, and his daughter is now finding out about it.
Well, we interviewed Kathleen Birkinshaw, who wrote The Last Cherry Blossom, and she's in America, and she was raised in America by her mother, who survived Hiroshima, who never talked about it
Mm.
until she, Kathleen, started developing problems. And the American doctors attribute that to her mother being a survivor.
Uh,
So there is long lasting, physical problems that people have even through generations. But the stigma against just surviving is so unnecessary, to say the least. But people who survived are forced to lie to their own families about surviving, for
they
years.
were they were if they let it be known, it would be hard to get married and it would be hard to get work. And to some extent, well, I haven't heard too much about that happening in second, third generation. People are pretty much able to get hired anyway, and get married anyway. But they are not free from the fear. And
Yeah.
the survivors lived with that. And even now, even 75 years later, the survivors are 3 times more likely to get cancer than non-exposed populations. And there is no such thing as a non-exposed population anymore. So it's really a rather high incidence, I think.
Yeah.
And also, they are vastly more likely to get multiple cancers, where if you and I get cancer, we'll probably get one cancer somewhere. But I know survivors who have had 2 or 3 different kinds of cancers and have had 2 or 3 different organs removed or partially removed in order to stay alive. And everyone says, "Oh, wow, it's so great that these survivors are still alive and they're in their 80s, and etc." Most of them would not be alive without really good health care, without first class operations to save them from cancers and other really debilitating problems. They have been kept alive by the medical system. It's not, I mean, the bomb would have killed them long ago.
Yeah. So it's really good to have a national medical system in Japan which does support hibakusha survivors. Sometimes you hear about hibakusha survivors who never got their free medical card because of the stigma, but
Yeah.
luckily they're living in a system that has good medical care anyway.
Yeah.
We're running out of time. I want to talk about your event this Thursday, the 24-hour event. Can
Oh,
you,
yeah, yeah.
yeah?
Thank you for that. Yes, I want everybody to be paying attention to it's called, there's a website, and if you go to Peace Plus Art Plus Music, it's just a plus sign, Peace Plus Art Plus Music, then you can find the URL that you can use to follow a 24-hour broadcast. So we will be broadcasting from 7:30 in the morning, uh, and we'll broadcast from Peace Park, which will be a shadow of its normal self this year. And then we will go into the former Imperial Bank of Japan, which is now an art gallery, and we will be broadcasting from there. We will have some Hiroshima people do some performances, and then we start going around the world and get people performing in Rwanda and India and Bethlehem and Ukraine, a couple places in Ukraine, a big deal coming from London. We have really cool things. I've only seen a few of them, but just last night I was looking at the one from Rwanda, and they made me happy that we're doing this. It was so cool what they are doing. And we are managing this from 7:30 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. 9 o'clock our time here is 8 o'clock in America. And so at 8 o'clock in America, the New York team takes over and they will run it for the next 10 hours. So then they hand it back to us just before the end, or we get together just before the end at 7:30 on August 7th. So this is going to be a cool broadcast. I don't really expect anyone to watch 24 hours of this, but anytime that you turn in, you'll see something. Yeah, I mean, anytime you tune in, you'll see something cool from somewhere. And it's not like we're competing with highly professional. You know, we're not NHK. This is not going to be smooth and perfect like NHK is, but it will be cool people saying hi to each other all around the world. And you'll see like Rwanda and India are Rwanda and India. You get a feeling of what it's like to be there by going there and watching them do what they do. That's great fun.
Yeah, I got some photos up on screen right now of the lineup for the London segment. They've got jazz singers, musicians from all over, some artists, designers, like a real variety of performances will be happening. Lots of great music from Japan as well. You've got some great musical artists. You said you've got films coming from all over the world to show. So it's definitely worth tuning in. I'm showing the YouTube channel right now that people can go and watch it live at.
Thank you. Thank you. That's good. Yeah. All you have to do is go to that channel and you'll be able to watch whenever you get there.
Yeah, great. And it's all free. Are you going to be doing fundraisers or anything during the broadcast or just?
No. This is just let's get together and think about being peaceful together, you know, bringing the world together. That's the whole point of this. And we're not being political. This is being funded by the culture department, the culture promotion division, not the peace promotion division. This is culture. So we are strictly forbidden from becoming political. But I mean, we can talk about getting rid of nuclear weapons because that is not even political around here.
Yeah, that's a fact that just needs to happen.
Yep.
Okay, so everybody's going to tune in to this amazing event, I hope, this Thursday. Unlike every other year so far, there will be no public access to the park on Peace Day, right?
Yes, and that is such a huge thing. I mean, normally there are tens of thousands of people in the park standing shoulder to shoulder or sitting shoulder to shoulder. I mean, it is a crowded Peace Park on August 6th in the morning. And then after that, there are events and things happening in the park all during the day. And then Toro Nagashi, the floating of the lanterns at the end. It's a day of people getting together for peace in Peace Park. And all of that is being, it's either canceled or curtailed. And so only a few hundred people are allowed in the park, and those are survivors and bereaved family members, and they sit, you know, socially distanced, and it'll be very controlled. And it'll be, I'm looking forward to seeing how they handle it, actually. I don't know how they're going to do this, but it is totally different from what usually happens. And that's why we wanted to do this broadcast. If people can't come to us, we want to go out to them. And we were so happy that just about everybody we contacted said, yeah, we'll do something. And most of them are creating videos and have sent us videos because they want to make sure that, you know, like if their electricity cancels out or something, you know, like in Bethlehem or in India or in Rwanda or in South Africa, all of these places have sort of unstable Wi-Fi environments. So they're sending us these videos. So I think, and the videos that I have seen are really fun. They put some time and effort into them. So anyway, I think we will sort of, in a way, bring the world together on that day.
That's wonderful. And because it's YouTube, I noticed on the page you can now like it, subscribe to the channel so you'll be alerted when it's starting. You can write comments along the way. You're going to have live stream comments. So hopefully you'll have people responding as well. I think there'll be, as much as possible, an interactive atmosphere as well. So it sounds like a great event. It's the first time you're trying it, right?
Yeah, yeah. Usually this happens at Peace plus Art plus Music is something that this is the fourth year of it, being done by Keiko Nakagawa, who takes over the Imperial Bank and does art and music there. But this year, no, she can't gather people there, right? You can't gather people indoors. So she said, "What can we do? What can we do?" And that's when we decided to go out instead of having people come in.
Great. I have a few people who've been commenting while you've been talking, just to let you know. I've been putting their comments up on the screen. Everybody's really supportive of your peace activism, also very excited about the event. Just before we finish the last 4 minutes, I want to talk again about your crowdfunding activities, just to remind people in case people are just watching now. So tell us again.
You mentioned about the returns for the crowdfunding.
Let's talk about that.
My favorite return is that if someone gives us 50,000 yen, which is something a little bit less than $500, if you donate that, you have just donated a online tour, a guided, personally guided online tour for a school somewhere. And that school will be a school that cannot afford virtual field trips and cannot afford to go anywhere. It'll be a school we have a partner in New Jersey who wants to make use of this. And we have of course, we have partners in Atlanta where I live and a lot of other places around the world where we will get schools to come and take the tour. And we don't have to charge them anything because someone has donated, paid up front for them or paid forward for them. And so that's what I really hope, that we can get a number of those kind of donations so that we can take our tour to schools that won't ever get here otherwise.
Yeah, that's a great idea. A lot of the Campfire page right now, for me, maybe because I'm in Japan, is only in Japanese. But
it's all in Japanese. I should mention that this crowdfunding is only for Japan. We were told very clearly by our advisors, now is not a good time to do crowdfunding in America.
Okay.
People are not giving money, A, and B, when they do give money, it's to the campaigns. And nobody's interested in anything else. So don't waste your time in America right now. So we're going to do crowdfunding for the Peace Portal in America, probably in November, December, traditional giving time, So I think that it'll either be that or else the following spring.
Okay. So this is focused on the Japanese market, people living in Japan. Yeah. And I'm showing the picture right now. You've got kids doing the virtual tour, doing it online with your team there.
You see how those kids have their phones in front of them. Okay, what they are seeing is what you see there. It's the Peace Park on the floor, right? Mm-hmm. You use your phone to put the Peace Park wherever you want it, like on your floor, on your table. And then rising up from there are these points of interest. And you tap those points of interest and you go down into them and take the tour of that, the cenotaph or the A-bomb mound or the dome, or you go these various places, hypocenter, so that you have experiences at those places, but you are going around Peace Park.
Yeah. And there's, I mean, we could spend a whole episode talking about the design and significance of everything in Peace Park, but every monument, every building has a lot of history and meaningfulness in how it was designed. The way the museum, the cenotaph, the A-bomb dome is all in a line. There's
Mhm.
so many interesting things to discover for anyone who is interested, that I really hope you guys are able to get the funding and be able to do this exciting project to spread the experience of visiting Peace Park around the world.
Thank you. I do too. I'm sure we'll find some way to do it because I think it's an idea whose time has just come here.
Yeah. It's a very important time to be talking about peace and learning about our past mistakes like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and hoping that never happens again.
Well, I think the COVID-19 pandemic has taught us that we cannot live like islands. If we are going to handle diseases, even much less the gap between rich and poor, or the problem of resources or water or all the rest of it, if we are going to solve any of these problems, we have to work together on it. No one country is going to become the boss of the world and tell everybody else what to do. It cannot happen. So we need to cooperate, and the virus is saying that very clearly. And by traveling around online, we can get to know people everywhere, and we can. One other thing, the Peace Portal. We originally were thinking, okay, the Peace Portal is how we bring people to Hiroshima. But in talking to people, we realized the Peace Portal has to be two-way. And we will take Hiroshimians to Guernica, for example, or to Bethlehem, or to India, or to all of these places where people have things they want to show. Oh, Rwanda. The Rwanda Genocide Museum is a really powerful experience. And we can do that online. So we can take Japanese people around the world through the Peace Portal, and the Peace Portal can bring people to Hiroshima. So that's why I think this is what we need to work on, with or without a virus.
Absolutely. So worthwhile. Thank you so much for giving an hour of your time, Steve, and sharing with us about your exciting projects and your insights. So important to talk about, especially this week. Thank you so much for all the work you do.
Well, I love talking to you, as you know. I will be happy to do it anytime you give me a call.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you for your wonderful comments. Please make sure to check out Peace Culture Village on their website, on Facebook. Find out about their crowdfunding on Campfire if you are in Japan. And definitely tune in, no matter where you are, on YouTube for the Peace Art Music event 24-hour session from Hiroshima and around the world, talking about peace. She's playing music, so definitely tune in for that. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye, Steve. Thank you so much.